Tonight on Q2, a long time coming.
Just glad we're going to be able to close it, have closure.
Just a day before the 5-year anniversary of the disappearance of Selena Not Afraid, one man is now facing criminal charges related to her death, plus a stinky situation.
It's frustrating to have to live like this.
A sewage backup right in one Billings man's backyard has him turning to Q2 for help and ringing in the new year. We look at how to best stay true to all of those resolutions heading into 2025. The MTN 530 News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on this New Year's Eve. I'm Russ Riesinger. Nearly 5 years to the day that 16-year-old Selena Not Afraid disappeared, one man is now facing 2 criminal counts related to her death. Robert Alvin Morning Bromley III was arrested Christmas Eve on 2 separate counts of criminal endangerment in Bighorn County for leaving 2 people, including Not Afraid, stranded at a rest stop. Not Afraid was never seen alive again. Her body eventually found on January 20th of 2020. Tonight, our Haley Monaco has the latest on the case.
Charges have been filed in the Selena Not Afraid case nearly 5 years after her death, bringing some sense of justice to the family. The start of a new year brings a reminder for Selena Not Afraid's aunt, Cheryl Horn.
It's just been a long 5 years.
The anniversary of Not Afraid's death.
That was one thing I never wanted to do, was to quit on her, and because that was a promise I made.
Not Afraid, 16 at the time, and another adult woman were left behind at a rest stop between Hardin and Billings in the early morning hours of New Year's Day 2020. Court documents say Not Afraid was intoxicated and not dressed for winter weather. Her body was found 1.5 miles away, 20 days later.
You don't want to necessarily move on, but you want to heal, but you don't want to leave things the way they were.
The end of 2024 brings some justice for the family as Robert Alvin Morning Bromley III has been charged with 2 felony counts of criminal endangerment.
To have the closure, just to try to start with the real healing,
According to court documents, Not Afraid caught a ride back to Hardin with Morning Bromley III after a New Year's Eve party in Billings. The car was having problems, so he pulled over at a rest stop where Not Afraid and the woman got out of the vehicle. Morning Bromley told them to get back in, and when they didn't, he left them both.
That was goodness in this world.
Morning Bromley's mother was behind him a few miles on the interstate, but when she pulled over to pick the 2 up, Not Afraid was missing. How she would remain until her body was found on January 20th.
It's time to let Sal rest and, get some closure, hold some accountability, and I'm very thankful. I just like to hope that this is just the beginning for cases, that our prosecutors, our county, our city, just treating each case as important as the next one.
In Hardin, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
A Southside Billings resident is speaking out tonight for what he claims is unfair and unsafe treatment by his landlord. The resident says that they've had a sewage issue for months, which is filling up their backyard and stinking up their home. Worst of all, he claims the landlord is not helping to fix that problem. Our Charlie Kleps investigates this stinky situation.
It's right here at C&D Property Trailer Park in the Billings South Side where a sewage problem has boiled over. You can see it sitting there, now spilling into this yard, and it's something that has gone on for months and something residents are tired of.
It's frustrating to wake up every day. And the first thing I notice is the smell.
The smell is pungent.
You can see all the sewage in there.
That brown pile in the middle of Brendan Neal's yard, that's not mud, it's warm sewage.
It's frustrating to have to live like this. It's a real embarrassing situation. People even drive by the house and they can smell.
A horrific reality and scent that Neal says his family's been living with for months.
We noticed August, the very beginning of August, that it started coming out from the neighbor's trailer.
Neal says he brought the issue up with his landlord quickly, and while plumbers have visited, nothing has been fixed. So he got the Department of Public Health involved.
So on November 12th, I just said, please have somebody come fix this sewage break.
A thread of emails with the landlord and health department dates back to November, ending with one on December 9th from the landlord saying,
"Do you know anybody who would want to dig that spot between the cleanout and Freddie's trailer?"
Neal has since sent multiple emails saying that should be the landlord's responsibility, but hasn't heard back, and so the sewage remains. We're wondering if you would be willing to speak about this. I got a hold of manager Sky Lane Tuesday, who opted not to do an interview but did provide a statement saying, quote, "We are aware of sewage backed up in the yard of one of the properties in our court and are working diligently to address the problem."
It's kind of inhumane to treat somebody like that. I mean, even if you don't legally have to do anything, I think morally you should want to create a better life for your tenants.
Morals aside, there are legal obligations for landlords to uphold according to state law. It states that a landlord shall keep all common areas of the premises in clean and safe condition and maintain in good and safe working order and condition all electrical, plumbing, sanitary, and others.
Just the human decency alone, you would think somebody would want to fix that.
An overwhelming reality Neil hopes ends soon.
I mean, I have an 8-year-old and a 64-year-old dad who has to deal with this every single day, so it's just a little frustrating.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Maybe you have plans, you're going to be out for the evening. Make sure you keep in mind that some of the roadways are going to be slick throughout the evening, and by tomorrow morning that could turn into some patchy fog. Today we started off 5 degrees warmer than average and ended up 5 degrees cooler than average based on the 30-year averages. And for the month, 1.7 inches of snow. That was it for us. We fell well shy of the 10 inches that's typical for a December. And, well, we picked up a few hundredths of an inch for today. It looks like we're going to get a brief break from the snowfall. Temperatures this afternoon across the state were in the 20s to low 30s. The gold shaded number shows you where the average is for this time of the year. And we also saw moisture, but that was mainly down the east slopes of the Rock.
There is renewed hope for a man with ties to Montana who's imprisoned in Russia right now. Marc Fogel has now been designated wrongfully detained as he serves a 14-year sentence in Russia for possessing medical marijuana. MTN's Emily Brown has more.
I had just finished a dog walk in Patty Canyon, and I got into cell service, and my sister-in-law called me and said, "Hey, the president just called me."
After more than 3 years, Marc Fogel has been formally declared wrongfully detained in Russia. That designation means he'll have the full force of the United States government behind him to bring him home.
It felt like they had taken a lid off of the box that we had been in.
Fogel was arriving in Russia to finish a 10-year tenure teaching, but was arrested for carrying medical marijuana for chronic pain and convicted on drug smuggling charges.
He is such a gentle, even-tempered person, and to have this happen to him is just so out of character with somebody like him.
Others, including Marine veteran Paul Whelan, who had been imprisoned in Russia, were brought back to the States earlier this year.
We thought, oh my gosh, he could be getting on the plane as well.
But Marc wouldn't be on that plane home.
When he wasn't, it was a bit of a gut punch.
It's just been such a nightmare. I mean, who would ever dream of anything like this?
Marc's mother, Malphine, says she never would have imagined her kind, outdoorsy son to be trapped abroad.
I still have my warm bed, and I have whatever kind of food I want. I don't know what his conditions are.
As Marc's case heads towards reuniting him with his family, he sits in prison until then.
He's 63 years old, and he has a long list of medical conditions. He needs to be prioritized.
And until he's home, his family will continue to find solace in hearing his voice, which they say hasn't changed, as he's allowed to make phone calls from Russia.
I think it keeps him going when he has some tie with us still.
He's a valuable individual. He deserves to be home, and he's a bright, shining light.
For those looking to help bring Marc Fogel home, his family urges you to write on behalf of his release to President Biden and President-elect Trump. In Missoula, Emily Brown, MTN News.
2025 is now less than 7 hours away, and the new year almost always signifies some New Year's resolutions. From working out more to pursuing a career ambition, sticking to those resolutions is oftentimes easier said than done. This evening, Matt Carmack looks at some ways to make sure you follow through on those goals.
Whether it's exercising daily, eating healthier, or spending less money, we all have those New Year resolutions we end up neglecting by February. Luckily, there's professionals right here in Billings to help you stick with your goals. A new year often means a new beginning, even for those who haven't had many years. At Wise Wonder in Billings, children gathered Tuesday to celebrate 2025 with a noon New Year's Eve party.
My New Year resolution is to achieve more stuff in life and try to do ice bath like my aunt.
For kids like Aaliyah and Cherish Ramirez, those new goals are quite simple. But for people like their mom, Uriah, those goals can be more complex.
I'd say continue doing cold plunges throughout the year and hit the gym.
Uriah Ramirez isn't alone in her goal of staying healthy. It's something nurse practitioner Jody Gilligan sees a lot.
So I always, recommend starting even with just a small goal of like maybe a 5% or a 10%. Sometimes if someone wants to lose, 100 pounds, that can seem insurmountable, But if we just have a 5% goal, then that can be our first goal that we get to.
For those looking to start the new year out with weight loss, dieting, and exercising, Jody recommends to make achievable goals and do things you enjoy doing.
Life gets in the way, so that's where it goes back to like setting the realistic goals, engaging in activity that you like, not feeling deprived, but so that you can stick to your goal easier.
Those New Year resolutions are one of the reasons the YMCA is offering a $0 initiation fee for the next 2 weeks.
I think the biggest thing is when you're starting in the new year, you want to start low and progress slow.
Health and Wellness Director Kasia Lyman recommends to sign up for classes or see a nutritionist to keep track of those long-term goals.
I think giving yourself a little grace and just doing baby steps and finding things that are easy to implement into your schedule and into your routine will help you stay successful longer.
Hopes of success in goals big or small. In Billings, Matt Carmack, MTN News.
Still to come on the MTN 530 News here on Q2. Frisco bound, a semi-truck filled with Bobcat gear ready to hit the highway. And later, the next stop after Frisco, could be the NFL for one former Billings star. We'll hear what makes Marcus Weir so special in just a bit.
Cute. From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 530 News.
Before the Montana State Bobcats can gear up for a national championship Monday, someone has to make sure the gear makes it to Frisco. And that process began this afternoon as crews loaded the back of a semi, making sure the Cats have everything they need for the big game. MTN's Chet Lehman has more.
Make no mistake about it, it takes a lot of equipment to play the game of football. In fact, the Bobcats will be using this truck, 16 to 18,000 pounds of gear, 2 drivers. 22 hours later, this semi will actually arrive in Frisco before the team does, all in preparation for Monday's championship game.
It's a good game of Tetris, and I played Tetris growing up, so I'm pretty good at it. But yeah, we got to stack this up, because not only do we take our football equipment, but we also take our nutrition equipment, we take our video equipment, we take our athletic training equipment, everything that's got to go down there from the hotel to the stadium will all be on this too. So yes, we'll be putting that on there, so not only can we access it when we get there, but so we have it.
This semi will not only hold everything the team needs for Monday's game, but also team preparations for that game.
It's basically going to take everything we need to set up the locker room, from players' practice cleats, practice clothes, laundry bins, everything we need to run our practices. And then, of course, when we get to game day, everything will be on there, from uniforms to helmets to shoulder pads. So that's going to deliver all that to us in Texas by Thursday before we even get there.
This truck has already been on the road this year, but thanks to the Cats' undefeated season, this trip will truly be the last of the actual season.
In this one, we're going to end it the right way, at the very, very end. So it's really exciting to me, and I'm really excited about that. It's going to be fun to be able to come home on that plane and wait for this truck to get home, and knowing I'm unpacking at the end of the season.
Departure set for 6 o'clock Wednesday morning, 1,453 miles, and 22 hours later, Frisco, Texas will be its home base through next Monday. At Bobcat Stadium, Chet Lehman, MTN News.